Welcome back. The man behind SOBE Energy Solution's plan to build a conversion technology plant in downtown Youngstown is David Ferro. Ferro faces an onslaught of opposition, everything from citizen protests to a resolution by City Council opposing the project. Madison Tromler recently talked to Ferro, who stands by the technology, and he says it's safe. Now, this is the first time Ferro has sat down for an in-depth interview.
Mr. Ferro, thank you for sitting down with us.
Sure, of course, thank you.
Now, as the CEO of SOBE, you've heard all the concerns, you've been to the meetings, you've heard about what people are saying about SOBE. So what can you say to the Youngstown community to ensure this is safe?
Well, I wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't. I mean, we're talking 25 years of being in the energy business, providing services to Fortune 100 companies, teaching them how to be more efficient, more cost effective in how they manage their energy infrastructure and manage their energy equipment. The last thing I'm going to do is do something that's dirty or pollutants or provide harm to the environment or even people. So my whole life has been about providing value in that space in a safe and reliable way. So the issue you really have here is a lack of understanding the differences between technology and not admitting what we don't know, right? So if you don't know something, it's easy just to kind of lump things together and say, well, that's this, when we're really that. And so there's a complete difference in the technology that we're deploying versus the pyrolysis that is traditionally being talked about here. And there hasn't been, in my opinion, a good amount of effort put forth to understanding actually what we do.
This has never been done before in the United States on a commercial scale. So you have no track record. How can you ensure people, though, that despite that, this is safe?
Because we do have a track record. Just because it doesn't occur here in the United States doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So in Germany, we do have a facility that has been in operations for a very long time, 20 plus years, been permitted by the regulatory front there. And we do expect a positive reply from not only the mayor of where that facility is located, but also the regulatory front that approved that facility over 20 plus years ago. No explosions, no environmental issues whatsoever for over 20 years of continuous testing. So we do have a track record. It's just people here don't know it. And so when you don't know something, you immediately jump to conclusions instead of finding out the facts. So we had a 44-ton unit in operations in Germany. So you know, when you get past a 5 and 10-ton unit and you go into a 44-ton or higher, you're commercialized. It just hasn't been here, mostly because of the market. You know, the market kind of dictated where pyrolysis would fit best financially, right? Because whenever you look at these types of projects, it's really a financial equation that most people are looking at. We did not look at it that way. We looked at it from an environmental perspective.
And just to clarify, that commercial scale that you mentioned, it was commercial, it was done in Germany with the 44 tons. Is that equal to what's going to be done here in terms of size?
No, it's half the size, yeah.
And it's not unusual for industries to self-report certain issues like emissions, but that does involve people trusting you. How can you ensure the people of Youngstown that this self-reporting will be done as transparently, honestly, and thoroughly as possible?
Well, I mean, you're speaking to about integrity of what we do, and it is, you know, a little bit of a slap in the face when people challenge that without knowing who they're talking about. But we don't walk into that with the idea that the EPA is just saying, we're trusting you. We are very focused on data, and our PLC, our control system that will be overseeing all of the automation of this, will be tracking a lot of sensitive information that the EPA is going to want to see. So I don't think it's really self-reporting so much as the way it was I think was a little bit taken out of context. There's going to be a lot of involvement from the EPA, and there's going to be a lot of data sharing that we have to provide them under confidentiality, of course, to protect our interest of our technology, but the data that can be publicly known is the emissions, the pollutants, anything that takes us out of our intended operational scope.
There's a lot of experts out there who have expert opinions, and we did speak with some experts, and they say a plant like this should be farther away from a downtown area. Are you willing to go above and beyond what's required of you to ensure that this is as safe as possible?
Well, I think it starts with the experts that you talk to. What are they the experts in? Are they the experts in the pyrolysis that are operating in other states today? That's not applicable here. So you can't take, just because you saw one pyrolysis system operate, you can't take the operational characteristics of that and apply it to this system. So until somebody actually says they spoke to me, they spoke to the distributor of the technology or the inventor of the technology directly to find out why this is different, I really don't accept them as an expert.
So no concerns to people you're saying who live nearby? They shouldn't be concerned.
They really shouldn't. This will be an extremely clean, safe operational system. In fact, our emissions are way down, and they continue and will continue to stay down. So you asked if I will go above and beyond. Yeah, we will, and we're already doing that. We're going above and beyond because we're going to actually put carbon capture technology on top of our emissions to further reduce our CO2. Even though we're way below history here. I mean, this system used to put out over 1,000 tons a year. We're not even a fraction of that, and will continue to be a fraction. We went from a major source, from an environmental, down to a minor, and we'll stay in that space with the thermalizer.
How closely will you work with the fire chief to ensure there's a fire safety plan in place in the event of any kind of fire, whether that be a chemical or a tire chip fire of any kind? How closely will you work with him?
Well, we'll work with them as close as they want to work. We're certainly going to make the facility to code at a minimum. And there's a lot of fire suppression that goes into this, a lot of fire protection that we have to do to bring this facility up to code, right? Because it hasn't been up to code for a very long time, right? It's been grandfathered in. There are no fire sprinklers in that building today, in the 1911, 1906, but there will be. We're going to install all of that. We're going to have fire suppression and fire protection for the tire chips. We'll have the same thing in where the thermalizer will be stored. And so, we'll be up to code. We'll work with the fire marshal to understand if there's anything of interest on his part after he sees the fire protection code, but we'll design that through a professional fire protection agency.
And working with the local fire department, I know the fire chief mentioned that of course they've never dealt with a plant like this before. Would you be willing to work with him and provide any additional resources if need be?
Well, that's a discussion that we can sit down and have a talk about. I don't know what the deficiencies are there. That's not my area of expertise, that's his. So I'm certainly willing to sit down and listen to what they need, what they feel they need, or what deficiencies they have and how they would treat or manage this facility. But I'm quite confident that we will never need the fire department to come to that facility. We would be able to do anything we need to do ourselves.
Is there anything else that you want to add, Mr. Ferro?
I just think that it would be better if we actually spent more time talking about the differences, understanding the differences, instead of yelling and screaming about what we think the differences are. There's a lot of folks that are well-educated people, but because they have either their own conflict or maybe some political conflict, that they're interjecting into this environment. And it's unfair. It's unfair to the people that work for SOBE. It's unfair for the people that will be working for SOBE in the future. It's unfair for the community in Youngstown to potentially try to forego a revolutionary, innovative technology that can bring a lot of change, a lot of jobs, And we talked about our city council members, right? They said $16,000. What's the average salary? That's what they were talking about in the meeting. That was the president of our city council talking about the average salary of $16,000. We're way north of that. And we're bringing a lot of jobs to the community. And we're going to clean the environment. So let's focus on what we're actually doing and not say things that aren't actually going to happen.
Clearly, we know we have a big problem here when it comes to the pollution from waste in the United States. And I know I saw a number, 280 million tires are discarded every year in the United States. Do you feel you've been unfairly characterized as a villain in this community when in reality your goals are all environmentally minded?
I wouldn't characterize it that way. I mean, sometimes you can, if you get emotional about it, you could certainly feel that way. I think people in general believe what they're saying, but it doesn't mean they're right. And so, I just think there's a lack of willingness to learn. And when you're in that kind of a space, it's very easy to shout, the simple things. You're not doing the work. You're not doing the homework. Anita Davis, you didn't do the homework. She didn't do her homework. The entire city council and the mayor did not do their homework. I'm offering the opportunity for them to do their homework. I'm willing to sit down with them and explain why this isn't a bad situation for Youngstown. It's actually a positive one. But they have to be willing to sit down and do those things. And to this day, without me coming to them and say, let's sit down, they haven't come to me to say, let's sit down and figure this out.
So Madison, where does this leave SOBE now?
Well, Matt, Ferro tells me that he has no doubt that this plant will officially be up and running sometime next year. Construction is underway, so after everything is installed, then SOBE will have to prove to the Ohio EPA that everything is operating smoothly. And regarding that Ferro invitation to anyone interested in the city to talk with him, Mayor Tito Brown says there is nothing that Ferro can say to him to make him change his mind unless he says that the project is not moving forward. So now the mayor is continuing to explore what action the city can take, and the mayor says at this point nothing is off the table.
All right, Madison, thank you. We know you'll continue to follow this story as it develops. Well, that does it for our first edition of 101 West. If you'd like to email us an in-depth topic that you would like us to investigate, send it to watchdog@wfmj.com. I'm Matt Stone. We'll be back again soon.